Power Hour with John Lee.
Let's rock it to Frank Mathews, who's different in lots of ways. Frank, and he's another black man, but he's American. I suppose we're all descended from the slaves, I would suggest. I don't know that for a fact, but I would suggest it did, because Frank Mathews was from North Carolina. Is that deep south? I don't know. I think South Carolina is. Not sure about North Carolina, but it's. I would consider that a southern state from my limey perspective. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he was from a place called Durham in North Carolina, which is not anything that you would associate with the deep south drink. It was a highly sophisticated place, and it was black. And they had a stretch there that they called the Black Wall Street. All black businesses, black owned, black schools, black this, black that. A town, a fully functional town where the population's black. So, I mean, this blows a massive hole in all this fucking shit. Oh, these blacks, doesn't matter where they go, they just fucking do the same thing. No, they get treated the same fucking way, is what happens. And when you don't treat them like shit, they prosper. What do you think? Black people can't run shops and banks and shit like that? Stupid bastard. Of course they can. So in this town, North Carolina, they demonstrated that handsomely. And he was from there, and so he didn't have a lot of these complexes, I think, that were imposed on the black people in America for long periods of time. Because, we've got more than you fucking set of twats. And so he's not really doing too well in that environment, and he leaves eventually, and he goes up to New York. I think he was in Philadelphia for a while, and he ends up in New York, and he's working as a barber. Frank, very low key guy, and he starts making some moves, but it seems like it happens pretty fucking quick. He gets hold of the idea of being a dealer. Right, I'm going to be a dealer. I'm going to sell some products. I'm going to make some coin, and if anyone gets in my way, I'll just shoot them, and don't leave them in the street. But he had a lot of class, this guy, and so people noticed him immediately, and in the right ways. And he went to see the mafia and said, "Listen, mafia, I'm going to sell some product. I'll buy it off you. I'll sell it. We'll all make money." And they didn't like his style, and I think it's because he had this drawl, this North Carolina way of talking. And they weren't having that in New York, and they fucked him off. Because they did deal with other black dealers in the same area, but they didn't want anything to do with Frank Mathews. So Mathews says, "I'll tell you what then, fuck you. I've got another idea." And he gets in touch with the cats in Venezuela. The dealing cats in Venezuela, talking Caracas here. And he makes a deal with them instead. Now, the Caracas boys, they're involved also in the French Connection, which was actually set up by the mafia. And this is where they take heroin from Turkey. It's often refined in some ways and packaged in... I think it's packaged in Sicily, and then it's refined in the south of France, and then they take it from the south of France up into Canada a lot of the time, into Montreal, also into New York, because they can do that. And so he's going down there, Frank Mathews, and he's rocking it with the Venezuelan organised crime. And so he very quickly becomes active, not just in New York, but in the state of New York, and then in Pennsylvania, and Illinois and Miami. This guy, in short order, is active in at least 21 different states. And when I say active, he's not selling dime bags. He's not fucking around behind McDonald's. He's selling massive quantities. He's supplying the drug trade in those states. This guy is a multi-millionaire. He's a real estate developer, to show some kind of income. At one point, he was in a wiretapped meeting, and he lost his temper and just pulled $4 million out of his pockets. This is way back when. This is back in 1970, 1969 maybe. When $4 million was a lot more than it is now. Smash it on the table. Let's do some fucking business. Alright, there's my money. Where's yours? Nobody's got that kind of money to play with. You know, and that was actually filmed. It was on camera, that. So people, the authorities, started realising this guy was definitely a player. And he thinks, right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll buy myself a big fuck-off house. And there's a place called Stod Hill on Staten Island, which is high-level property. Staten Island, New York. High-level property, high-level area, very, very exclusive. No black people. No blacks at all. But what there were a couple of guineas, as they say, Italian Americans. And one of them was Tommy Lucchese, who was the founder of the Lucchese crime family, the New York 5 families. One of them is still called Lucchese. It's the Lucchese family, and that was Tommy Lucchese was the founder of that. Three Finger Brown was one of his names. He had 3 fingers, Tommy. Top businessman, Tommy Lucchese. And another one was Paul Castellano. And Big Paul Castellano was the boss of the Gambinos, the Gambino crime family, before John Gotti. John Gotti and Sammy the Bull Gravano obviously orchestrated his death outside Sparks nightclub in New York. But Paul Castellano, Big Paul, was the brother-in-law of Carlo Gambino, who gave his name to the Gambino crime family. And so Tommy Lucchese and Paul Castellano are not fucking around, big-time gangsters, and they live on the same street as him, right? So they've got it all nice and plush behind the gates and all that. They're joining, what do they call them, the Managat. The Italian Americans call the white man, the proper golfing white man, the Managat or something like that. And they've moved in there. They're suburban as fuck. Paul Castellano's got a big, massive mansion he calls the White House. So in comes Frank Mathews into all this and starts booming out his tunes. He's rocking out his parties. You know, it's bikini flavour on his front fucking lawn. And they're having parties every night. And so, you know, he gets told, you know, you are going to get dead if you carry on with this. I was trying to get some fucking sleep last night and you were fucking around playing Motown classics. And Frank says, fuck you. I'll take a drive through Little Italy, right, down Mulberry fucking Drive or whatever, and I'll blow you fuckers away. And I'll do it in front of everybody, broad daylight styles. And they realised this guy's not fucking around. You know, people saw him down in Vegas. He was a major player down in Vegas. Celebrity styles down in Vegas. This guy was massive. I would say the biggest fucking heroin dealer in history. I don't think there's been a bigger dealer than him. And you can go and watch, you know, American Gangster with Frank Lucas. Absolute bullshit, man. They've made a mix of stories. They've taken stories from the Frank Lucas real life story biography and a lot of bullshit that he told about being Bumpy Johnson's fucking bodyguard, which I'm absolutely sure he wasn't. And they've mixed it up with some other elements of Frank Williams' life because they couldn't be bothered making 2 films, I suppose, and created this story. And even the story of the cop played by Russell Crowe is a lot of bullshit as well. Frank Mathews was the man. If I said Williams a couple of times, I don't know. Frank Mathews was the fucking man, not Frank Lucas. And so, one of the members during all this of the French Connection gets caught, and Frank Mathews is heavily implicated, and he gets arrested, and he's going to be charged. He's going to be fucking, he's going to be Dunskies proper. But the government suddenly drops the case because it's too complicated. You know, because the Venezuelan government is involved as well, and the American government gives 2 fucks about diplomatic relations with Venezuela. Yeah, it's too complex. We'll have to drop it. You mean you're up to your fucking tits in it and it's going to come out? Is that what you mean? I mean, you can't explain how all this heroin is flooding into your country and smashing all over your streets, and how everybody makes money from it and everybody goes home smiling. Is that what you fucking mean? Yes, it is what you mean, and that's why Frank Mathews walked away from that.
Frank had more money than the mob. Mathews was the number one. He would have ruled the United States.
Frank Mathews was a much larger drug dealer than Frank Lucas.
He's literally fallen off the face of the earth.
When the cold wind comes, it lives in New York City.
In the 1970s, we had a heroin problem in the country, and definitely in New York City.
A river of money is flowing because business is so good.
It was a gangster town, you know. Nobody wanted to go to New York City.
What evolved here, he took over.
He was a guy that had great leadership skills and knew how to control a product, make distribution all along the East Coast, and control an organization through violence and intimidation.
A state senator from Baltimore, and Frank had him killed.
And he had been identified as the largest heroin trafficker in the United States.
He put $4 million on the table, and he says, let me see if you can match this.
Let's face it, they couldn't believe that this black guy, was working in 21 states, with this huge network, and people were coming from all over the country to buy dope from him.
In the 70s, the advent of civil rights, when African Americans were becoming more prominent in business, the drug dealers wanted to do the same thing.
And he hated the Italians because they hated the blacks.
And his goal was to unite and form a family where they cut out the Italian mafia.
Castellano and certainly Three Fingers Brown would have wanted him killed.
But there are a lot of people, even in the Frank's organization, that were killed and executed in Philadelphia.
We never had a solid lead on Frank Mathews. We felt like he had disappeared off the face of the earth.
So he had $15 million and 6 months head start.
Well, then Vito Genovese, the boss of the Genovese crime family, he gets prison. Right? He gets caught and he gets prison. And I think it was mafia people who wanted Genovese to get locked up. He was a trouble causer. And Frank Mathews at this point, nice one. He becomes fucking absolutely top dog. He's undisputed. And that's when, the walls start closing in on him, as they say. They want him in prison. They want him off the streets. They want him out of hair. Everybody does. And so he just fucks off. All the money's gone. Frank Mathews is gone. And his girlfriend's gone. They've been seen all over the world since. This is way back when. This is 40 years ago. More. And they just disappeared. They went down to an airport. They were down in Texas. And they've never been seen since. And I've seen interview after interview with CIA guys, FBI guys saying he's still fucking alive. He's still alive. He got his money, changed his identity, and fucked off. A lot of people said he went to Africa. No, he won't be sitting behind a cactus having a wank. He's fucking, living in some big fucking palace, claiming to be some kind of tribal king. Anyway.